A resigned acceptance of the way things were crept in. Despite everything, my father never showed me anything other than affection and tolerance. I think in later years he almost used writing as a form of therapy to deal with his own ups and downs, and this, together with his unique and sometimes devastating perspective on almost anything, made the letters real gems that have clearly stood the test of time. He was a great pricker of ego, self-importance, and pomposity. He was also a total original, as indeed was my dear mother. Thus his descriptions and analogies of people, situations, and such are both a breath of fresh air and highly entertaining. I clearly remember him summing up Yoko Ono, when she first came on the scene, as being as erotic as a sack of dead ferrets, while in one of his Sunday Times articles, circa 1971, he wrote, "At one time a little humdrum adultery could prove a barrier to the royal enclosure at Ascot, but now something more spectacular is required, such as hijacking a Securicorps van or taking a too prominent role in a sex education film designed for circulation in the best preparatory schools." This little collection of literary snapshots in the form of letters is a celebration both of a long-suffering father's enduring relationship with his ne'er-do-well son and a humorous insight into the life of a mildly dysfunctional English middle-class family in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. A bit of history. My dad was born Roger Francis Mortimer on the 22nd of November, 1909. My grandparents were pretty well off and lived in a house in Cadogan Gardens, Chelsea, London. According to the 1911 census, there were 8 live-in staff members. My grandfather, Halliburton Stanley Mortimer, was a charming man, but by all accounts not a great stockbroker. My grandmother, Dorothy, née Blackwell, was an heiress of the well-known food company Cross and Blackwell. My father had one sibling, Joan, born in 1907. He was educated at Ludgrove School, Eton College, and Sandhurst. In 1930, he was commissioned into the Coldstream Guards. He was a captain when his platoon fought a desperate rearguard action at Dunkirk in 1940, during which almost all of his men were killed, and he was wounded. Unconscious, he was taken prisoner and spent the remainder of the war in prison camps, running the camp radio. Many of my father's friends in later life were those he met as prisoner of war number 481 in various Oflags and Stalags. After the war, he rejoined his regiment, and as a major served in Trieste. However, in 1947, he resigned and took up an appointment with Raceform, the official form book for horse racing. He followed this by becoming racing correspondent of the Sunday Times, until retiring almost 30 years later. He also wrote for various other newspapers, was a commentator for the BBC, and became PR officer to the Tote. In addition,